Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
Prime Minister Mark Carney has arrived in India for a series of high-profile meetings, none bigger than his sit-down with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Monday. Hi, I'm Virjesh Dave. This is Big Headlines, everything you need to know to be in the know in just 5 minutes. Mark Carney has arrived in Mumbai, where he kicks off a trip to India, the first one for a Canadian Prime Minister since 2023. The Prime Minister will be spending the first couple of days of this trip in Mumbai for talks with business leaders. That'll focus on trade. A comprehensive trade agreement is expected by the end of this year. Both Canada and India are looking to diversify their economies and decrease reliance on the United States. Carney's then going to head to New Delhi for a meeting with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Tensions between Canada and India escalated following the last diplomatic trip in 2023, with Indian government agents accused of orchestrating the murder of one person and threatening Sikh activists in this country. The federal government says they're confident India is not interfering in Canadian security anymore. Public Safety Minister Gary Anandasangari says any security issues will be addressed.
There's two tracks here. One is to ensure that we have an economic engagement, but we will also have at times difficult conversation around safety and security of Canadians.
After the visit to India, Carney will head to Australia and Japan. In the wake of the cartel violence in Puerto Vallarta and a jet fuel shortage in Cuba, Canadians appear to be having a harder time booking or rebooking trips to sunny destinations. Travel experts say the number of places travelers feel comfortable going is on the decline, with many trying to go to the Dominican or Jamaica. Travel agents are seeing a sharp shift in travelers' demand away from almost all destinations in Mexico.
The main issues were focused in Puerto Vallarta, and even like our travelers who regularly go to Cancun and Riviera Maya, which is like 2,500 kilometers away, are now like rethinking them and looking at booking other packages.
That's Nova Parker with Total Advantage Travel and Tourism Toronto. She says the Canadian travel industry adapted in the past year to fewer Canadians wanting to go to the U.S., and the recent issues in Cuba and in parts of Mexico have put even more of a squeeze on the number of vacation options. Also making big headlines, it's the Hollywood ending with a twist in the takeover battle for Warner Brothers Discovery. Paramount Global is set to walk away with some of the most historic names in entertainment and news after Netflix dropped out of the bidding battle for the storied Hollywood movie studio. Our Mike Eppel has more on why Netflix bailed.
For Jesh, it came down to price and politics for Netflix, with the company saying that the price that Paramount Skydance was offering was not financially viable for them to top at $111 billion. And also, all along, the Paramount Skydance bid, backed by the Ellison family, had the support of U.S. President Donald Trump. The expectation was that if Netflix were to succeed, it would take months to get through the regulatory and legal process, slowing its near-term growth.
Netflix says it plans to keep investing in its own business. It spent tens of billions of dollars this year creating films, TV shows, and other entertainment offerings, many of which I'm sure you and I have binged. The vast majority of Canadians say they would vote for their province to stay in Canada if a referendum were held, according to a new City News Canada Pulse Insights poll. But support for independence is notably higher in both Alberta and Quebec, where almost a quarter of people said they would vote to become independent if a referendum were held. Quebec has a provincial election set for this November, and the Parti Québécois has promised to hold a referendum if it comes into power. Pollster John Wright says the results present a clear opportunity for the Prime Minister.
Mark Carney is seen by at least half the public in Alberta as a unifying force for the country, and his popularity is very high as well. If Mark Carney can step in and fill that gap among the roughly 75% who say that they'd like to remain in Canada, I think that's a good counterbalance given his current popularity.
In Alberta, the provincial government recently announced a referendum on a number of issues will be held on October 9th. A Canadian man has been detained by ICE in Texas since November under harsh conditions. Curtis Wright's fiancé says he faced cold, contaminated water, minimal food, and delayed court dates while trying to return from Mexico. Wright was born in Edmonton, but he's lived in the United States for 30 years and is a permanent resident, with his detention stemming from a decades-old drug conviction. His family's concerned his custody rights for 2 of his children may be in jeopardy if he self-deports to Canada. If you haven't listened yet, today on the Big Story podcast, how former Prince Andrew's arrest could either make or break the monarchy. Host Karen Siolan speaks to journalist and professor Jeffrey Dworkin.
You mentioned earlier a long shot scenario of King Charles abdicating the throne. Am I to infer from that you think the Andrew issue will define King Charles's reign?
Probably not, but it's certainly a huge problem of perception at this moment. A few months from now, things could be different. Charles could do something that would say that he was going to vacate. I don't know. There are a couple of things that are out there that are in a way unbelievable. One of them is for Charles and Camilla to abandon Buckingham Palace and turn it into a national museum and park, because it would be a gesture of that the royal family has to live differently. And I think that we're going to see a few of those gestures. Whether that'll be enough, I have no idea.
You can listen to the full episode wherever you get your podcasts. Now you're in the know. Thank you for listening to Big Headlines. Make sure you follow, share, and review Big Headlines. Today's episode was produced by Felix Slew, and Rika Amaturo is our lead producer. I'm Rajesh Dave. Have an amazing weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday.